A very important City Council meeting will be taking place next Monday at Lethbridge City Hall. Council is looking at a third reading of a temporary bylaw making mask wearing mandatory in all public facilities and not just those run by the city. To talk more about it is Lethbridge Mayor Chris Spearman. Welcome back to BCN, Mayor.
How are you today, Hal? Happy to be here.
Yes, thank you so much, Chris. Now, the AHS says there are no new active cases in the South Zone and 12 active cases in our city in total. Now, it appears as though what we're currently doing is flattening the curve, so why go to this extreme? And we're not even under a state of emergency here in our city.
So what's happened is the numbers have gone up, the numbers have come down, but there's some things that will be changing very shortly. We'll have children going back to school or students going back to school. And of course, as we go into the fall, it's going to get busier and busier in our retail areas. So as we approach the Christmas period, it's going to be very difficult to socially distance. So AHS has told us what we don't want to have and what they wouldn't advise us to do is have a bylaw that applies this week and then not next week and then it applies the following week. Be consistent. And we believe that keeping people safe is something we should be looking at. It's a balance between people's rights to liberty. That's what the messages we have been getting. People believe they're being dictated to, and the other half of the population believes it's important to try and keep each other safe. So we're trying to walk that balance and make sure that we pass a bylaw which is helpful in keeping our community safe in total.
How much pushback have you really received from residents about being told to have to wear these masks at all indoor public facilities?
Not a lot of pushback. So I would say it's about 50-50. There are people who believe that it's important to stay safe and keep each other safe, and there are other people that are saying it's not necessary. But each councillor will evaluate the information we've all received, and we'll be voting on Monday. First two readings have passed. There might be some amendments to the bylaw before it passes. So every councillor has a right to put forward amendments based on the feedback we have heard. So we've heard from religious communities saying that the person delivering the sermons, leading the service, should, if they're more than 2 meters away from the congregation, do they have to wear a mask? So we'll have to see how that works out. There may be different resolutions coming forward to amend it based on the feedback we have heard from the population.
Who would some of the other exceptions be as well? Maybe those with underlying health conditions, and maybe children under the age of 2?
Underlying health conditions and minimum age is already specified in the bylaw.
Now, Council has also discussed making this bylaw mandatory until the end of the year. When would we actually see it kick in?
As soon as the bylaw is passed. So I would say practically in September. But the end of the year period, it would be after the Christmas rush, the retail period. How do we keep our economy safe and our businesses open if there is a bit of a bump up? And we don't want to react to every fluctuation, every announcement, but create some conditions that create predictability and limit the spread.
So I guess it all depends upon how it's going with flattening the curve, whether or not you're going to decide to extend it, correct?
We'll see what happens. There are predictions that there will be a second wave in the fall, and we want to be prepared for that second wave.
Now, Chris, how much is the fine if somebody's caught not wearing a mask indoors at a public space, and who would enforce this fine?
The fine is $100, and it would be enforced by police or by law enforcement officers. Our focus is going to be on education.
I'm just wondering if some of the police officers say to you, you know what, Chris, I'm too busy, taking down drug dealers and the serious crime in my city to write a citation to a little old lady, in a building who's not wearing a mask. Have you had pushback from maybe the police as well, saying, come on, this is ridiculous?
None at all, because we've taken the approach that we're not going to take a hard line on enforcement. We're going to focus on education.
Now let's discuss how the province allowed another phase, which includes people being able to eat in restaurants again, another phase of the economy reopening. I went to the Water Tower Grill recently, enjoyed some great food, saw a wonderful view. Now, some would ask, why are restaurants open again? Is there no COVID-19 when you're eating food?
Well, I'm not the health expert. The province has made those decisions. I think what they're trying to do is make sure that businesses stay viable, and the restaurant and entertaining sector of the economy has been the one that's been hardest hit by COVID.
Now, with the COVID-19 pandemic, many have decided to just stay right here at home, be a tourist in your own town, have a staycation, spend their money right here at home. Sadly, there's no Whoop Up Days this year. Obviously, that was canceled, but more facilities are slowly reopening, including the Henderson Pool, which is open again.
Yes. So, and they're open under different rules. So you have to make appointments to go to Henderson. You have to go already in your swimsuit. Uh, Basically, physical distancing has to be maintained. So the rules are different than prior to COVID-19. The same with the entertainment sector. Usually, where you're going to a restaurant, you're having to maintain spacing between tables. There's usually a table for use and then a gap, and then a table for use and a gap. So those restaurants aren't as full as they once were. The volume of service is not what it once was, but some cash flow is better than no cash flow.
Well, I was just thinking as well of the Corps Van Ray YMCA when I'm working out there as well. You have to arrive in your workout gear and leave in your workout gear because the lockers are not open right now. Now, you mentioned that there would not be a tax increase during the COVID-19 pandemic, but I received a note with my property taxes went up $46 a month. So does that mean the city increased the value of my property as kind of a workaround to try and get more money out of me?
Nope. The value of the assessments did not go up, but the value of individual assessments within the city could fluctuate. If you live in an area where house prices are rising, and in an older area, house prices might be falling, we have to follow the Municipal Government Act when it comes to assessments. So assessments are based on market values, and they're tied to uh, home sales in the last 12 months. So if the homes in your area have been selling at above assessed values in the last 12 months, and the homes in another area have been declining uh, in value versus their assessed values, there is that kind of fluctuation. But in total, we're not collecting any more taxes than we did the year prior.
Now, a new mobile supervised consumption site truck is operating by the Lethbridge Soup Kitchen now. Has the province indicated to you through permits how long it'll actually be set up there?
No, they have asked us if it meets the regulations, and it does. So they can have a mobile unit there. Again, these programs are federally approved and provincially funded, and all we look at is the zoning issue.
Some business owners have asked me, do we know where this mobile SCS truck will be moving to next? Do you know? Has the province given you kind of an outline or a plan? We're going to the south, the north, the west?
There is no other plan. The concern is to address issues that are arising from the closing of the supervised consumption site. So what we're seeing is people spreading out and using drugs through the community. We're seeing them in city parks, in the river valley. There's more encampments. So that's a challenge we have to keep our eyes on. Basically, we might be seeing some of the problems we had before the supervised consumption site opened, where more use in parks and playgrounds throughout the city and spread across the city. So the idea of providing a similar service at near the homeless shelter, hopefully people will use that service, and we'll have to see if that service is adequate. If it's not adequate for the demand, they may be looking at maybe placing another unit in the same location or in another location where people can easily access it.
Archer said before that they'd be picking up some of the needles through some of their programs that they offered through the SCS, but that's not happening anymore. Chris, who's picking up the needles now?
The city is working with the provincial government. We've been asked to apply for funding to conduct needle cleanup, and we'll work with various community organizations to make sure that we keep the city as safe and clean as we possibly can.
Let's talk about how disappointed you were when you first heard about the misappropriation of $1.6 million tax dollars at Arches. And that these were people who were supposed to be helping our city's most vulnerable. Instead, we heard about unauthorized trips to Portugal, big screen TVs, thousands of gift cards, plus a salary over $340,000.
Well, there's no accountability to the city of Lethbridge. Again, that accountability is to the provincial government. We weren't funding that aspect of the operation, and it is disappointing. The challenge has been that City of Lethbridge has been asking for services for decades. And since I've been the mayor, we were asking for a detox facility, we were asking for an intox facility, we were asking for supported housing, and we didn't get any of them. And the first thing that got funded was and approved was supervised consumption. So after supervised consumption in September of 2018, an 8-bed detox at the hospital opened. Medicine Hat has an 18-bed detox. Just to give you an example, we had no intox facility. When people were under the influence of substances, our only option was to take them to a jail. They were so this June, an intox facility opened up, but we didn't have any of those services. And we have one of the most severe problems in the province. So the problem hasn't gone away. Uh, the facilities are still lacking. We still don't have supported housing. The $11.1 million that was approved and then reapproved, we still haven't built the building. It'll be a year and a half away before it's even constructed. And it will serve approximately 25% of the need. So just to let you know, um, those problems have not gone away. The underlying problems, we certainly hope that people will transition into rehabilitation and recovery. But until they can get into some of the first steps, until they can get to a detox, until they can get to an intox, unless they can be referred through an existing service that they're accessing, their chances of getting to treatment are very low.
Chris, what is it going to take to keep the drugs out of our city once and for all? The drug dealers and all the opioids, the meth, what is it going to take?
Well, we've always talked about a four-pillar approach that includes enforcement. We felt that we needed stronger enforcement resources in the city. We've asked for those. Uh, we've wanted the organization based in Calgary that closes down drug houses to be active here in the city of Lethbridge, and our request was not accepted. So we're not able to shut down drug houses effectively. We want to continue to do that. We want to support our Lethbridge Police Services and make sure that enforcement's strong. But we need to make sure that treatment and recovery are active. We want to make sure that we provide the educational resources to deter people from going into drugs. And if people are addicts, we have to find a way to reach out to them and get them connected to services.
The police chief starting at the end of the month, Matizade, have you talked to him about some of the issues and the problems when it comes to drugs here in our city and crime?
I think he's well aware of what he's coming to. Uh, I really like his attitude. He's a very personable individual, and I think someone who is who has the experience that he does have with a wide range of leasing in a large number of locations. This is a man with about a 40-year career coming to the city of Lethbridge. Uh, I think we'll benefit from that diverse experience.
Yeah, he's been with the RCMP for what, over 30 years there. Now, Chris, the kids will be going back to school soon. What are you hearing from parents? Will they send their children back to school or consider maybe homeschooling in light of the pandemic?
I'm not hearing a lot. I think they're working with the school boards and the schools. I'm impressed with the efforts that our local school boards are putting into making people feel that their programs are going to be effective. I've seen video tours of schools, uh, announcements by the school superintendents basically saying what people can expect when kids go back to school and recognizing that not everyone will feel comfortable going back to school. So they're providing alternatives. So I think I heard there's numbers something about between 10 and 20% that want to do homeschooling at least for the initial period, and others will be going back to school. So it will be very different, and certainly our school systems have a significant challenge ahead of them.
Last time you and I chatted, it was sad because of the fact that many small business owners had to shut down here in Lethbridge in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. So what is the City of Lethbridge doing to help some of the small business owners and maybe even attract more investment and business to our city?
We have an economic recovery committee that meets regularly, and we're looking at the various forms of incentives and supports that can be provided to business. And so the committee is meeting, our subcommittees are meeting basically every week or every other week. And then we get together on Thursdays, share the information. We've been getting input from business organizations, basically how the city can help them. And we're continuing to look at options to make sure the economy stays healthy.
Winter is just around the corner. Will we see the plowing of residential streets, or is that still off the table for now because of potential increase in taxes?
Yep, we will not be adding services. We're doing a two-phase operational review, and we're actually looking at ways to become more efficient, and we'll be looking potentially at shedding services so we can keep taxes low in the future.
Lethbridge Mayor Chris Spearman, thanks a lot for your time today.
It's been a pleasure, Hal. We'll talk to you again next month.
You bet. On behalf of all of us here at BCN, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless, and thanks so much for watching.